Mandatory vaccinations became an issue this week in the early Republican presidential campaign. And that's just one of the reasons we want to talk with Dr. Ben Carson, the world-renowned brain surgeon who is seriously considering a 2016 run. Dr. Carson, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Chris.
You have been hardline on vaccinations. When it comes to serious diseases like measles, you say that parental authority is trumped by public health. Here's what Rand Paul had to say about that this week.
I've heard of many tragic cases of walking, talking, normal children who wound up with profound mental disorders after vaccines. I'm not arguing vaccines are a bad idea. I think they're a good thing. But I think the parents should have some input. The state doesn't own your children. Parents own the children, and it is an issue of freedom.
Dr. Carson, you have been reluctant to criticize the senator. You say he's a reasonable person, but let me put this differently. Is that a reasonable statement?
Well, you know, what we really have to look at is the fact that we've learned a lot about immunology and the science behind vaccinations. And we've made tremendous progress in eliminating some devastating diseases over the decades. What happened a few years ago is that information was disseminated inappropriately, anecdotal in nature, about terrible side effects from vaccinations. And all of that has been carefully investigated and debunked. The problem is we have not disseminated the information widely to people. So there are still people who believe that there's legitimate concern. There is not. And we always look at benefit to risk ratio. You look at the benefit to risk ratio for vaccinations, way in favor of getting them. Is there an occasional problem, an occasional allergic reaction? Of course there is, but you have to look at the overall good. It's sort of like with seat belts. You know, we mandate that seat belts have to be worn when you drive. You know, that's not optional. We know that it works. The same thing with texting while driving.
Dr. Carson, I mean, it's interesting because you are talking about this in a very clinical, very scientific way, as a noted brain surgeon would. Some Democrats, though, say that there are some elements in the Republican Party, both candidates and voters, who deny science, whether it is vaccinations or climate change or evolution. Do you think that criticism is fair?
No, it's not fair at all, because it's not a partisan issue. You look in California, the places where the outbreaks have occurred are largely blue areas, Democratic areas, where people have said, you know, we don't need this anymore. What they're not looking at is the fact that the reason they don't think they need them anymore is because we've had such an effective vaccination program that you're not seeing the diseases. But now that you're getting large pockets of people who are not vaccinated, the opportunity exists to reintroduce the disease. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue at all. A lot of people want to make everything partisan.
I want to talk, not surprisingly, some politics with you. You say that some people have been brainwashed, that they think that only politicians can run for office. And I wonder when you said that whether you were thinking about me, because as you know, I've raised with you, we're friends, the questions about your prospects in running for president, and I got to say, you are proving me wrong. We are going to put up two recent polls, the latest Fox News national poll. You're in fourth place behind Bush and Huckabee and Paul, but ahead of a whole lot of other people. Then let's look at Iowa, where you're in fourth place, but you're running ahead of Jeb Bush and a bunch of senators and governors. So, and I say this as a bit of a mea culpa, Dr. Carson, why are you connecting with voters?
Well, I think people are beginning to understand that our country is in a great deal of trouble. And if we continue with politics as usual, be they Democrat or Republican politics as usual, we're going to continue to sink. And, you know, we're called the United States of America. And we need to be looking at things that work for all of us, not selecting out groups of people that we want to favor and groups of people that we want to demonize. And the things that I'm talking about are American things and things that work, things that are affected by common sense. You don't have to be a lifelong politician to have common sense. Sometimes I think the longer you're in there, the less common sense you have.
So
we just need...
So let me, excuse me, we just have limited time here, sir. So
Sure.
An exploratory committee in the next couple of weeks and a formal announcement by May?
I believe that sounds like a reasonable time.